Okay, your homework should be turned into the homework hotspot, and you should be working on solving one of these three equations, or three problems, okay, 38, 39, or 40. Just pick one of them. And I want you to find the value of x. So I'll give you a couple more minutes. Miss Osborne will pause it and then play it when you guys are all ready. Okay, if you chose number 38, again, we want to find the value of x, which is part of an angle measurement. Okay, I gave you a hint here where it says the sum of the angle measures of a quadrilateral is 360. So I know all of the angles together add up to 360 for each of these shapes. So we're going to keep that in mind. Let's look at number 38 and see if you did that correctly. So we want to find the value of x, which means if I know that this angle is 5x plus 5, so is this one because the symbol represents it's the same measurement. As is, this is 2x. This one is also 2x degrees. So knowing that information, I can go ahead and set up what I know. If I know that all of these add up to 360, I'm going to simplify all of these first. So if you notice, I added up all of the four angles. Okay, then I looked at combining my like terms. So I looked and saw, well, 2x and 2x and 5x and 5x I can put all together. And then that leaves me with the 5 and the 5. So I end up getting, when I combine my like terms, I get 14x plus 10. So that's what all the angles add up to be. Now I want to solve for x, which means now I'm going to set that equal to 360. So 14x plus 10 equals 360, and I'm solving this two-step equation. So I subtract 10 on both sides to give me 14x equals 350, divide by the coefficient to give me x is 25. That's the value of x. That was for number 38. Okay, let's take a look at 39. So again, this is 4x minus 4, as is this angle. And this one is 3x plus 2. Always label your angles if they're not labeled for you already. So again, I know that all of these angles add up to 360. So that's the first step I'm going to take. So my first step is I wrote everything out, and then I'm looking for what I can combine. So I have 4x, 4x, 3x, 3x. I put those all together. And then I have -4, -4, 2, and 2. And I end up getting 14x minus 4 for the total amount of angle measurements. So I set that up and set that equal to 360. So 14x minus 4 is equal to 360. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So give me 14x is equal to 364. Divide by 14. My answer here is x is 26. Again, that was for 39. And then if you chose the last one, again, you just had to do one, so just look up here and try to learn from the other ones if you didn't get to it. This one, actually, all the angles are already labeled for us. We have 5x, 4x plus 10, 80. This one's not labeled, but I do know this symbol and what it represents. How many degrees is that? Okay, that's our right angle symbol, so I know that's 90 degrees. So again, I'm going to add up all of the angles. So that's what I did, 5x, which is this one, 90, 80, and 4x plus 10. I'm combining my like terms so I can combine my x's, 5x and 4x, and then all my numbers over here. So I end up getting 9x plus 180. Now I need to solve for x because all of these, which make 9x plus 180, equals 360. So I went ahead and wrote that down. Subtract 180 from both sides. Divide by the coefficient of 9. My answer here is x is equal to 20. These are the type of questions that you'll be asked on the EOC. Okay? So hopefully you tried the one that you did. If you didn't, try the other two maybe tonight. Write those down if you need more practice on that. We're going to get more into solving equations today with multi-step. So instead of doing two-step, we might have variables on both sides. We might have a couple extra steps that we need to take to solve for the variable. So let's flip it over. Next page in your journal is multi-step equations. Today is August 31st, 2016. And it looks like this is my page, let's see, 13, my page 14. So go ahead and label whatever page number that is. And again, in your table of contents, I'm going to label that page 14. And we'll go ahead and get started once everyone is ready. Okay, so first thing, let's just write down, we already have solved a couple of these before, and it should be, again, review. We're starting to move into new information in a couple days, but this is all review from your 7th grade pre-AP year. So let's write down our steps. We'll write down a lot of steps in algebra because you can refer back to these as you're working through your homework and studying. So whenever I give you an equation, one of the first things we want to do is simplify as best we can. So what we're going to do, if there are parentheses, we're going to clear the parentheses using distributive property. And we'll do a lot of examples after this, so let's just write down the steps for right now. So let's get rid of all the parentheses that we see, whether it's on the left side or right side or both. And we'll use distributive property to clear that. Once we're done with that, to simplify a little bit more, okay, we are going to add the like terms that are on the same side of the equal sign. Okay, so if we have 5x plus 2x plus 5 on the left side of the equation, we're going to add our x's together just to simplify it a little bit better and easier. Makes it easier on us. Okay, step 3. Once we simplified as much as we could, okay, what we want to do is we want to move the variables, which are our letters, to one side. And you can choose whatever side you want as long as you use the inverse operations. Once we move the variables to one side, we're going to move the constants or the numbers. I'll put numbers in parentheses, to the other side. And then our last step is usually divide by the coefficient. And I also want to write down that we have to make sure the variable is positive. Remember, we can never have a variable that's a negative variable. Once you're done writing those steps down, I want you to put a big highlighter box around them, because these are the steps that we will take as we work on the examples and your homework. So these are the steps for solving any type of multi-step or variables on both sides equations. So let's go ahead and do a couple together, and then I'll let you do some on your own. Okay, so let's start off. Let's go 3a minus 7 parentheses 2a plus 5 parentheses equals 40. Alright, so as I'm working through this problem, I'm going to go through my steps at the same time. So step 1 is, if there's any parentheses, we want to clear those using distributive property. So it looks like I have parentheses, so my step 1 is distributive property. And I'm going to color code this, so you can use colored pencils if you wish. But distributing what number to what's in parentheses? I should be distributing this negative 7. Okay, so I'm going to distribute it to everything inside. And I'm going to rewrite my equation here. So this 3a, what happens to that 3a? It just comes down. Negative 7 times 2a is negative 14a. Negative 7 times 5 is negative 35. And the 40 just falls down as well. So that's step 1. Okay, step 2, add the like terms that are on the same side of the equal sign. So if I look on the left side, is there anything I can combine here? Sure is. So step 2 is I'm going to combine my like terms, and I'm going to put an L for the left side. So I'm going to circle my like terms. I can combine my A's here. And I'm going to go ahead and rewrite what I have. 3 minus 14a is negative 11a. This negative 35 falls down, and then I have 40. Okay, step 3, move the variables to one side. Do I have any a's over here? No. Do I have a's here? Yes. All my a's are on one side, so I don't have to do step 3. Step 4, move the numbers to the other side. Well, if my a's are my variables on the left side, let's move our numbers to the other. Again, this is a two-step equation. Get rid of the number not attached to the variable. So, minus 35, the inverse would be adding 35 to both sides. And I'm left over with negative 11a is equal to 75. And the last step here is I divide by the coefficient. The coefficient is the number in front or attached to the variable. So I'm going to divide by negative 11 on both sides. I'm going to use my calculator. And I'm going to do 75 divided by negative 11. And I end up getting this repeating decimal. So A is equal to negative 6.81 repeating. Again, that sign on top just represents that the 81 is repeating. Okay, so I went ahead and solved that, and this is a multi-step equation. We had a couple other steps that we had to solve. Now, again, you learn that we didn't have to do step 3 because all the variables are already on one side. So there might be some problems where we don't have to do all the steps. We just have to make sure we follow the order that we wrote the steps in. So try this one. Let's do 2y plus 29 minus 8y equals 5. Again, go through your steps. Every time I want you to look at your steps. So step 1 is distributive property. Is there any parentheses here where I'd have to distribute? No. Okay, so step 2, add the like terms that are on the same side. Okay, so can I combine anything here? On the left side, yes, I can combine the 2y and the negative 8y. So that ends up giving me negative 6y. That positive 29 falls down, and the 5 falls down. Now, you have to remember, step 2 is add the like terms that are on the same side. So I can't combine 29 and 5 because they're on separate sides of the equal sign. That's why we draw that line there. And now, are my variables on one side? Yes, the y's are on the one side. So step 4, move the constants to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 29 on both sides. Rewrite what you have. I have negative 6y on the left, and I have negative 24 on the right. The last step is I divide by the coefficient. So negative 24 divided by negative 6, 2 negatives makes a positive. 6 goes into 24 4 times. Okay, let's try one with fractions now. We're going to use the same way, so make sure you refer back to your notes if you need to. Okay, let's write this out. We'll say 2b over 5 plus 3b over 4 equals 3. Now, again, there's a couple ways of solving this. I don't like the way that this looks because, again, remember we talked about the 4 different ways we could write this out. What I like to do is totally take the variable off and just put it next to it. So this is really 2/5 b plus 3/4 b equals 3. So that means the same exact thing. It's just written a little bit neater for me to understand. And I really do not like fractions. You could multiply everything by the common denominator and solve. Or you can just change it to a decimal, and since we have a calculator, that would be beneficial. So 2/5, if I wanted to figure out what the decimal is for 2/5, I'm going to put 2 divided by 5, and that's 0.4. So 0.40b plus 3/4 I know is 0.75b equals 3. So once I have that sort of written out in decimals for me, I'm going to go ahead and look at my steps. Is there any parentheses for distributive property? No. Can I combine anything on the same side? Yes, I can combine actually everything on the left side. So 0.40b plus 0.75b is 1.15b is equal to 3. All my variables, which are the b's, are on the left side. All my numbers are on the right, so I don't have to do anything there. The last step is to get b by itself. I need to divide by the coefficient on both sides. I'm going to use my calculator. I'm going to do 3 divided by 1.15. And I get an ugly decimal. I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth, so 2.61, because that 8 bumps that 0 up. So my answer here is b is equal to 2.61. Okay. Let's solve with variables on both sides now. So let's try this one. 5x plus 2 equals 2x plus 14. Again, we want to use the same exact steps that we want to follow. So we'll do this one, and then I'll give you a couple that you can try by yourself. So step 1 is a distributive property here. No distributive property. So step 2 is combine my like terms on the same side. If I look on the left side, can I combine those two? No. If I look on the right side, can I combine those two? No. So I move on to step 3. So now I'm looking to move my variables to one side. So it doesn't matter which one I move. I know I'm going to have to subtract either one, so I'm just going to subtract the smaller one. So I'm going to minus 2x. It doesn't matter because you'll still get the same answer whatever one you use. And I'm going to subtract 2x from the 5x. Notice I put it right underneath because these are like terms. So 5x minus 2x is 3x. This positive 2 falls down, and the 14 falls down. Okay, so we moved all our variables to one side. Let's move our numbers to the other. So let's go ahead and subtract 2 over here. I can put it right underneath the 14 because these are like terms. So I'm left over with 3x on the left side. 14 minus 2 is 12. And then the last step here is I divide by the coefficient of 3. So x should equal 4. Okay. Any questions? Turn to your neighbor and ask your neighbor if you have any questions. See if they can answer it. Give you about 30 seconds. Alright, let's try another one. I'm going to have you work through this by yourself, following those steps. 2 parentheses 5x minus 1 is equal to 3 parentheses x plus 11. Okay, so again, follow your step by step and see if you can solve for x. Miss Osborne will pause the video, and when everyone's close to being finished, in about 2-3 minutes, she'll push play. Alright, so step 1 in our notes is to get rid of the parentheses. So on the left side, I'm going to distribute the 2 times everything in the parentheses. So 2 times 5x is 10x, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Okay, on the right side I also have parentheses, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute that 3 times everything. So I have 3x, 3 times 11 is 33. So you should have definitely gotten rid of those parentheses. Next step is, can I combine anything on the left or right side? So if I look, 10x minus 2, can't combine those two, they're not like terms. On the right, 3x plus 33, cannot combine those because one has a variable, one doesn't. So I move on. I need to move my variables to one side. So I have 10x and 3x. Again, I'm going to subtract them, so I'm going to take away the 3x on the right, but it does not matter. And I'm going to take away 3x on the left. Again, I line the x's up because 10x minus 3x is 7x. This negative 2 falls down, and the 33 falls down. So now that I moved the variables on the left side, let's move our constants on the other. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So I now have 7x on the left is equal to 35. I'm going to divide by 7 as my last step, and x should equal 5. Raise your hand if you got that. Alright, perfect. Let's do one more with decimals, and then we'll do a couple word problems because word problems is probably how it's going to be asked on the EOC. Try this one by yourself. 3.1x plus 9.2 is equal to 2.06 minus 1.15x. Miss Osborne will pause it to allow you some time to work on this. In a couple minutes, she'll push play and we'll go over it. Okay, so step 1, there's no parentheses here, so don't need to worry about that. Left side, I can't combine anything. So right side, I can't combine anything. So now I want to move my variables to one side. So I have 3.1x and negative 1.15x. I'm going to go ahead and since this is negative 1.15, I'm going to add 1.15x just to keep my variable positive. And now I'm going to add these two together. Now remember, 3.1 is really 3.10. So 3.10, and even if you didn't know that, okay, I could just put in my calculator, 3.1 plus 1.15, I get 4.25. 4.25x plus 9.2 is equal to 2.06. Okay, variables on one side, let's get our numbers on the other. So I'm going to subtract 9.2. Again, this is 9.20, so I like to fill that in. So on the left side, I'm left over with 4.25x. And then I'm going to do 2.06 minus 9.2. I get negative 7.14. And the last step is I divide by the coefficient. Divide by 4.25 on both sides. And my answer should be negative 7.14 divided by 4.25 is negative 1.68. And that would be my solution for solving for the variable x. Okay, so that's basic computation of these problems. The next thing we're going to look at is just 2-word problems because that's probably how it's going to be asked on the EOC. So Miss Osborne is going to hand out this half sheet to you where there's 2-word problems we're going to work through pretty quickly. I would not glue it in quite yet. We're going to glue it in at the end. So we'll work on these two together right now. So for this first problem, it says Noah and Kate are shopping for new guitar strings in a music store. Noah buys 2 packs of strings. Now as you're reading these word problems, it's important to highlight or circle the important information. So Noah buys 2 packs of strings. Kate buys 2 packs of strings as well as a music book. The book costs $16, but their total cost is $72. We want to know how much one pack of strings cost. So what we're looking for here is the cost of one pack of strings. That's ultimately what we're looking for. So let's pick a variable first. Let's say, we'll say S with a line through it, because my S's look like 5 sometimes, represents the strings, because again we want to solve for 1. Now let's write down what we know. Okay, let's write down Noah. Okay, Noah is going to buy 2 packs of strings, so if I use my variable S, 2 packs of strings would be for Noah. That's what he's going to buy. And Kate is going to buy 2 packs of strings and a music book. Now the music book, we don't want to have another variable in here because we already have S to represent strings, and that's what we're looking for. But it says the book costs $16. So for Kate, she's buying 2 packs of strings and a book that costs $16. And we know that their total together is going to be $72. So this is all the information we know. It's just sort of listed out. Let's write it as an equation here. Now again, we want to figure out how much one pack of strings cost. So if we know that their total costs $72, I know altogether they have $72. That's as much as they can spend. So Noah's going to spend his money on the 2 packs of strings. Kate's going to buy the 2 packs of strings plus the book for $16, but total they only have $72. That's your equation right there. Okay, this is everything they're buying, and the most money that they can spend is $72. So now we have to solve for S, because again, S represents our strings, how much one pack is. 1S is what we're solving for. So no distributive property here, but I notice that I can combine my like terms. So 2 bags of strings plus 2 bags of strings. How many bags of strings are we buying total? We have 4 bags of strings plus the book for $16 equals 72. Now I want to solve for S, so I'm going to subtract 16 on both sides. So I get 4S is equal to, let's see, 72 minus 16 is 56. I'm going to divide by the coefficient of 4. And 1 bag of strings is going to cost me 56 divided by 4, $14. And does that answer my question? Always go back and look. How much is 1 pack of strings? 1 pack of strings is $14. If I plug it back into check, okay, 2 times 14 is 28. Plus another 2 times 14 is 28, plus the $16 for the book is $72. That means they're equal on both sides, so I know I did that correctly. Go ahead and try writing the equation for the second one. Work with the people around you. See if you guys can figure that out. Okay, so we have 2 different companies here, house painting companies. The first company, we'll just say Company A. I'm going to highlight that one and we'll say orange. So Company A charges $376 plus $12 per hour. Okay, Company B, which I'll highlight in pink, charges $280 plus $15 an hour. And the question they want us to solve is how long is a job for which both companies will charge the same amount. So I circled same for a reason, because if I want something to be the same, what's another word that represents same? Equal, right? So they want to set each company equal to each other. How long will both companies cost the same? So they're really asking us to have Company A equal Company B. That's going to figure out how long it's going to be. So again, identify a variable. Well, if it's how long, we're talking about hours here. So we'll say H is equal to hours. And company A is $3.75 plus $12 per hour. So my equation here is 376 plus 12H. You have to pay this $3.76 and then $12 per hour for every hour that they paint the house. Okay, company B was $280 plus $15 per hour. Okay, so I have my equations here. Now let's figure out for how long, which is H hours, it will cost the same. So company A was $3.76 plus 12H equals company B, which is $280 plus 15H. And I'm going to go ahead and solve for H because we're going to figure out how long until they will be the same. So again, no distributed property. Can't combine anything on the left. Can't combine anything on the right. So the next step is moving my variables. I have 12H and 15H. So I'm going to subtract 12H. And I'm going to rewrite what I have. I have 376 is equal to 280 plus 3H. Okay, the next step is, since I moved my variables to one side, let's move our numbers to the other. So I'm going to subtract 280. 376 minus 280 is 96. And the last step here is I divide by the coefficient of 3. And I end up getting H is equal to 96 divided by 3 is 32. So to answer the question, if I had to write it in a complete sentence, how long is a job for which both companies will charge the same amount? You could say company A and company B will charge the same amount at 32 hours. Okay, so those are sort of word problems and how they're incorporated with our multi-step equations. What I want you to do is, in your journal, since some of you didn't glue it in yet, which I didn't either, I want you right underneath where we finished up our notes, glue this in. Now, it won't fit here, so I like to fold it in half and then glue that in, just so I have this available, because you never know, you might see this question again, and it's just good to study for. So I'm going to glue that in, so then when I want to look back at my notes, I can just open it up and read that. Once you're done gluing that in, you will start your homework. So go ahead and get out a separate piece of paper, and you can go ahead and head it. Name, Skills A. Today's the 31st of August, and whatever period you're in, Friday. Ms. Osborne will pause it until everyone has this out on their desk, and then I want to talk about just one of them together, and then you will have the rest of the time in class to work on this. Okay, so you should already have your paper headed. Okay, Ms. Osborne will hand this out to you in a second. This is your homework. It's 10 questions with solving equations. And so we're going to do the first one together so you know what I expect. So wherever it says your name, Skills A, let's write down number 1. The equation here is 6W minus 8 is equal to 2 plus 9W minus 5. Now again, all your work needs to be shown for you to get credit. We're doing all of our work on a separate piece of paper. We'll write our answers back on the original one. So I'm going to go ahead and solve. First of all, can I combine anything on the left side? No. Can I combine anything on the right side? Yes, I can combine my numbers. So 2 and negative 5. So I'm going to write it out. This 6W minus 8 falls down. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. And this 9W falls down. Okay, the next step is let's move our variables to one side. So I have 6W and 9W. Let's move the 6W. So I'm going to subtract 6W. Write it right underneath the 9W. So I have negative 8 is equal to negative 3 plus 3W. Next thing I'm going to do, since I move my variables on one side, my numbers on the other, so I'm going to add 3. And again, if you still don't have these rules down yet, okay, you have these rules and the steps written in your notes, so make sure you have that open when you're doing your homework. 3 w's still left over on the right side. Negative 8 plus 3 ends up being negative 5. Then I'm going to divide by the coefficient of 3. So I end up getting negative 5 divided by 3 is negative 1.6 repeating. However, this quite isn't correct yet because my variable has to be on the left side, so w is equal to negative 1.6 repeating. I'm going to go ahead and circle that. Now again, if you left your answer as that, it's incorrect. You would get it wrong. You have to have the variable on the left side. So w is equal to negative 1.6 repeating. I'm going to go ahead and look at my paper once you have that written down. Let me zoom out a little bit. I'm going to put w is equal to negative 1.6 repeating and circle my answer. So you have 9 more questions to do. Okay, make sure you show your work on this paper. Write your answer back on this paper, and you will staple your work behind the actual worksheet. Make sure your name and date is on this one as well. And then you'll turn this in the homework hotspot tomorrow before class starts. Okay, that's it. So have a great day.